For all things outdoors, listen to the father of two, the Jesus-loving TV show hosting hairy, true-blood American redneck, Ben Cole.
And listen to the outdoor filming, chef cooking, chocolate milk drinking, John Weissmuller. And we are
Rooted Podcast. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Rooted Podcast. Today, Ben and I are going to ask a very simple question. What is a mechanical broadhead and what is a fixed broadhead? Simply put, fixed broadheads are just that. They're fixed. They don't move. They have one shape and that's it. Versus a mechanical broadhead that starts out at a certain diameter, and when it hits the animal, it expands and then becomes a bigger cutting diameter. So the biggest question that comes out of that is, what do I use? Do I use fixed or do I use mechanical? Well, today, Ben and I are going to deep dive into both sides and then let you decide what's best for you. So with that being said, Ben, let's start talking about the cutting diameter of both. Let's kind of start the conversation there. What do you think should go into when deciding which one to use if you're just thinking about cutting diameter?
Well, the first thing that I would think is, okay, where are you hunting? What are you hunting? And, you know, because that in itself answers a lot of questions. You know, I mean, if you're hunting up in or over in the Midwest where the bucks can be 200, 250, just super big bone deer, you know, I would rather shoot a fixed blade during those type of hunts because I don't have to worry about something, you know, opening or closing. Now, granted, I never have worried about that actually happening, and I'll dive into that in a little bit as far as the mechanical broadhead opening and closing, because I use them on a daily. I mean, that's what I use. But I also have fixed blades in my arsenal as well, because nowadays they've got these fixed blades down to where it's really, really easy to get them right. You don't even have to line them up with your veins anymore. And, you know, it depends on your shot placement too. So if you shoot a deer, let's say in the shoulder, you know, obviously a fixed blade is going to work a whole lot better to punch through that shoulder because it doesn't have to open or expand or move or anything. It can just punch right through, and your cutting surface is already exposed and at its max potential cutting diameter, right? So that's what I would say is the major factors. You know, and personally, if I'm going to go bow hunt an elk, I'm not taking a mechanical broadhead. I'm going to take a big, heavy, fixed blade broadhead that is able to punch through those thick ribs and all those kind of things. So that's kind of my take on that. It's once again, it's what you're hunting, where you're hunting, shot placement, and you know, more so personal preference, really.
For sure, you know, and then when this discussion comes up, it's always a little funny, right? Because what's it really matter? But if you're talking about cutting diameter, you know, I kind of like the mechanicals just a little bit better, but just because I feel like it just puts a bigger hole in the animal. Now, obviously, you know, a well-placed shot is a well-placed shot. You could use a field tip if you really wanted to. I mean, if you put it through the heart, it's over. But another thing I like about mechanical, and some people have some different opinions on this, is I like that little bit of leeway. So what I mean by that is if I'm off half an inch or an inch, I'm probably still going to nick some sort of artery or something because I have a little more give with the mechanical versus the fix. And, you know, I've kind of seen anymore, you were talking about how a fix kind of punches through bone better. And that is true to a certain extent. I think it depends on which broadhead you're using as far as the mechanical side goes, because I've seen some that can punch through bone pretty good, but I will say this about that is, I think it depends which way your mechanical broadhead actually opens and how.
Yes. Yep.
So there's some that, how do I say this? They don't really like swing open. They just kind of push out.
They slide open.
So
yeah.
Yes, exactly. And it doesn't really, I don't really care for that, to be real honest. Um, like I shoot Schwacker 2-inch 100 grain broadheads, pretty popular brand. And what I like about those personally is one, it has a band over it. Okay, so it's not going to open mid-flight, which is a problem I have had with others. You know, if that broadhead starts opening, it's going to start flying all sorts of wonky, and it's just not going to be a deadly hit if you even hit it. I mean, let's be honest, you probably won't hit it if it's just opening mid-flight, but if you do, it probably won't be deadly. But with the Schwacker, man, it's got these little chisels on it almost, and that is kind of the part that gets through the bone. And while that's getting through, it then swings open. So it's almost like a swimmer. Like if a swimmer's doing a breaststroke, that's kind of what this broadhead does, is it opens up and then just swims through the rest of it. And it just absolutely destroys it. But again, with that said, the Fix does a great job as well. They've been around forever and there's a reason, right? I mean, there's a reason Muzzy's been around forever. It's because they freaking work. And the bottom line is, as long as you hit it in the right spot, then I don't care what it is, elk, deer, turkey, whatever, bear, as long as you hit it where it's supposed to be hit, you are good. I just like that comfort of, I got a little bit of leeway. Not that I need it, not that I'm thinking I'm going to miss, but it's kind of nice having a backup, just knowing that you have.
Yeah, so I agree with what you're saying there because I shoot mechanicals too. The thing I like about the G5 Mega Meats is they have the cutting surfaces on the outside. So if for some reason it does not deploy, I still have the cutting surface going through and causing chaos, right? And one thing I like about them over other brands is they actually, so when it hits, it just slides and opens. So it's kind of just the reverse of what you're talking about. It just slides and opens. And dude, I'm telling you right now, I have shot some deer. Well, you were with me. We were in Oklahoma. That buck I shot, dude, you remember that blood trail that thing left in that sick photo you got of the blood spraying out of the side of that deer? It was unbelievable, man. And that thing didn't go 40 yards and it was done. I mean, just done. So, and that shot was actually a little far back. So that really, correlates with what you were just talking about with that little bit of leeway, to clip whatever you need. And that's exactly what happened. We got the liver and the lung. So, we hit it, like I said, a little far back, but we still ended up getting the lung and all that stuff with that extra 2-inch of cut versus a standard broadhead. And, I will say though, those, and dude, we're not endorsed by any of these broadhead brands. We're just telling you folks what we like and what we use. So, I like the Mega Meat because they've got that little collar on them, and you can pop the blade back in. So it's not like, other brands where it's kind of like what you're talking about with the Swacker. It's got the rubber band that holds it. Well, these have that little collar too that you clip the actual blade into. And I like that because I know that it is in place. It's not moving, not going anywhere until it hits that animal. And then we get into ethics, right? We want to make the best ethical shot ever. So that deer is not, wounded. That deer is not, suffering. We want to dispatch them quickly and go and get them, especially with the velvet season coming up. Like we've talked about in previous episodes, you've got to make sure that you are dialed and you make a great shot and then you go recover that animal, and then you get that animal processed and in the freezer immediately, as fast as possible, because you don't want to lose the meat. Number one. Number two, you don't want to lose that beautiful velvet. So that's the whole point of making these shots and deciding which broadhead is best for you, is so that way when it does come game time and you're really in, you make that best shot right then and there, and then you don't have to worry about an astronomically long track job, having to let them lay for hours and hours and hours, and then potentially the meat spoiling and all that stuff. So, and that goes for any time of the season. I'm just talking more so about early velvet season in late August in Tennessee here, or in other surrounding states. We get into the September, early September, like in Kentucky and stuff like that. I think it's the first weekend of September every year. So it's still hot. It's blistering hot out. So you just have to think about that kind of stuff before you go into a hunt, and be prepared for that kind of situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And it all really does boil down to just shot placement. I mean, we could sit here until we're blue in the face talking about the differences, and we probably will. But my point is that we can all agree that just you still need to go out and practice, and take your time, aim small, miss small, all those fun things. But staying on this mechanical versus fixed blade, I kind of want to break down your arrow setup, Ben. What kind of arrow do you shoot, and what kind of grain broadhead? Like, I mean, I know it's the G5 mega meats. You shoot 100 grain, 125. What are you slinging?
So I've got a really good friend who custom built my arrows for me. His name's Wes Kennedy. You know him. But he made these. These are 300 grain arrows with 100 grain mega meats. So, and these arrows are actually match grade. So they're really, really straight. So that's one thing I like about them, is there's not much bend in them. I mean, it's all micro measurements too. I mean, to the naked eye, you're not going to see it, but I like to be as precise as possible. So I wanted to go with the match grade, so that way I can, obviously be more accurate and things like that. So I'm shooting a 300 grain arrow with a 100 grain mega meat, and that has been a pretty deadly combo there, man. It's been pretty awesome. But man, I was gonna say, along with this stuff too, after you say what you're shooting, I want to dive into the skeletal system of a deer, and let's talk about what these broadheads actually have to go through upon impact before they actually get to the vitals, so that way we can really understand what all this broadhead has to endure to get to the money hole, to get to the heart, the lungs, things like that. So, first of all, though, what broadhead are you shooting weight wise, and what arrows are you shooting? All that kind of stuff. What's your setup?
Yeah, so I'm shooting Easton Axis arrows, 300 grain as well, I do believe. And another thing I've kind of, and this is just preference, this is just what I like. I like short fletching versus long. I really couldn't give you an in-depth reason why, other than it just seems to be better for me. And then I shoot 100 grain Schwacker broadhead 2-inch. So it seems to work great for me, man. I don't really have a issue with it ever. So, but that's what I'm shooting out of a Matthews at the moment. I've shot bear before. I still have my bear bow. It shoots great too. Nothing wrong with either one of those. But anyway, that's kind of what I'm using. And luckily so far, out of the few deer I've shot with the Schwacker, I haven't had a problem with finding them or anything like that. So,
nice.
Yeah, I did have. This is kind of going into your skeletal thing here. Is one time I was shooting a crossbow. It did not have Schwackers on it. it had a different brand of broadhead, and it was mechanical. And I have this deer comes limping in. It's actually this deer. Funny enough, that's behind me here. He comes limping into my cowpea plot, and I'm in like a quad stand, and I got the little blind over it, so that's why I'm shooting a crossbow out of it. And here comes this deer. I watch him for like 45 minutes, and I'm contemplating whether I'm going to shoot this deer or not, because there's a bunch of bigger deer in the area, but I don't want this dude to suffer, like he's gonna die a very gruesome death anyway. Like, I might as well just put him out of his misery. So I finally decide he gets broadside, dude. It's like 25, 30 yards. But, it's just chip shot.
Yeah.
I shoot. Dude, I hammer this deer, man. Like, perfect. Just right behind the leg. Like, just money. And he's acting kind of funny whenever he runs away. Like, it sounded weird. I'm thinking, like, what in the world was that,
Yeah.
Dude, long story short, it took me, like, I'd say 4 or 5 hours after I shot that deer, and I finally got him, obviously. But, dude, it was crazy. So what had happened was the broadhead didn't deploy, and it didn't have the cutting surfaces on the outside like you were talking about. Right? It had the tip of the broadhead, but nothing else. It had to expand out for it to work, and it did not expand. And dude, it literally just punched the deer, and kind of cut the skin, and then bounced right off.
Dang.
It cut a little more, obviously, because he ended up. I've found him and put him out of his misery. But dude, you talk about being sick. You do everything right, and the product doesn't perform like it's supposed to. That'll eat you alive. But kind of going into your point, how what did it bounce off of? Why didn't it punch all the way through? So let's dive into that, Ben. What does an arrow, a broadhead, have to go through on a deer?
So once again, it's all about your shot placement. So you have the shoulder blade, you have ribs and hide. So it has to punch through the hide, punch through the ribs to get to the lungs and the heart, the vital area of a whitetail. So, it's actually better to spend a little bit more money if you can on just better metal. And I know the Swackers are really good. I'm not discounting them at all. I'm just talking about what you have to actually go through with the broadhead to make it to a fatal shot and not, wound a deer. Because I'm just like you, it burdens me to the core to make a bad shot or to have a product that does not work correctly, like in your case. Man, it just makes me sick to my stomach when that happens. So I always like to, do some research, look into the blades and make sure they're super sharp, like what am I trying to think of here? Like a scalpel. I want them to be as sharp as a scalpel. I want them to be so sharp I can shave with them, and that just makes passing through all of those things so much better. And this goes back to the other point that I was talking about. If your cutting surface is already out, even if it does not deploy, you are still cutting all the way through. So you're still getting that channel for the blood trail and all those kind of things. And that's ultimately what, the cutting diameter is doing, is creating a blood trail, creating, a channel, if you will. And it just makes everything go a whole lot faster for the deer. It puts them out a whole lot faster than, a very small, restricted, like you were talking about, right placement with a field point. Yeah, but that's the thing. Yeah, you can kill one, absolutely. But with the small wound channel, it's not going to be a great blood trail. It's not going to be, as fast of a recovery, and
Yeah,
all that
correct.
kind of stuff. So that's what I'm getting at is you got to think about what you're passing through, and you know hide, ribs, potentially a part of a shoulder, and then it's the same on the other side. So you got more than one, set that you got to go through. So, that's just some thoughts right there to think about when you go to, decide what broadheads you really want, what broadheads you don't. I like mechanicals with the blades out, the sharp edge on the outside, not on the inside. That's just what I like, and I think that's a pretty safe bet. I think the swackers work really well too. And I like the swackers because they have the band around them that holds them, but it deploys very easily. That's what I like is that it's not rigid. It's not, it doesn't matter if a little piece of grime gets in there, it's not going to hang it up. It's still going to deploy.
Right.
So
Yep.
that's what I like
Exactly.
about the swackers and the G5 is it's not reliant on some kind of crazy mechanics to work.
Yes, exactly. Like the other broadhead I was talking about, come to find out there was a piece of plastic essentially that had to break off, and it it was just too much going on in my opinion. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm sure it works phenomenal if X, Y, and Z happen, but if it doesn't, then what happened to me happens, and it's just god awful.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with you there. And you know, basically kind of something else to think about. We're sitting here talking about shot placement. I kind of want your thoughts on this. We don't really have this down anywhere, but um, how do you feel about aiming in a tree? So 20 feet, 15, whatever, 25 feet up versus ground blind. Do you try to aim somewhat the same, or is it totally different to you? Because to me, you know, I well, first things first, I always aim a little high. I do, because I know that deer's gonna duck a little. And I've seen some deer, I mean, put their chest on the ground, but all of them at least flinch a little bit. And a little bit in the archery world, you know,
There's a lot.
can determine hit or miss, or
Yeah.
vital versus not vital, all that kind of stuff. So, which is another reason why I like mechanical, because sometimes the deer moves for you. But anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. Absolutely, man.
do you
So
find
one
yourself
thing.
aiming different?
Yes, I do. So I actually aim a little bit lower. And it depends on how close they are to me as well. If a deer's like right up on you, you can't just like, aim normally. You have to drop it down a little bit to be able to actually strike that kill zone like you need to. So
Yeah.
I always,
I guess I did say that.
oh yeah, you said
My
high.
bad.
So
Yeah.
you'd shoot over their back, Johnny. But that's okay.
Yeah, I would not
I
be
knew
good.
what you were
Yeah.
talking about. So
Yeah, my bad, folks. Yeah, do not aim high. I'm just an idiot talking on a microphone. See, look, we are all human. I see. I had the word high in my brain. And that's what came out. That's what happens when you
yeah.
don't think a thought through. Yeah, I would aim
Yeah.
low because then you'd shoot high, you big doofus. Anyway, that's what I meant to say. Whoops. Yeah, don't be like
Don't do
me and shoot
that.
over its back. Hey, I have done
Yeah.
that a time or two. I've also shot under a deer, but we've all
Yeah.
been there.
Oh yeah, man. So I try to aim for the heart area, right where that shoulder crease is, just to the left about an inch. That's where I
Mm-hmm.
like to aim, is right next to that crease there. And here's the deal: if they drop, you're still in the lungs. If they do nothing, you're in the heart. So either
Yeah,
way,
cash money.
you're in the money zone either way. So that's where I like to aim. And like I said, it really depends on how far or how close they are. In a ground blind, I shoot it just like I shoot a normal target. Just straight
Right.
on, just normal old shooting. So, but when I'm in an actual stand, you know, it's also nice to be able to have the rangefinders that we have now that actually calculate that angle that you're shooting, and it gives you the true yardage based on that angle. So that's really nice to have all that kind of stuff too, because that all plays a factor in it, you know. It all plays a factor. So yeah, I would definitely
Absolutely.
aim low. Anticipate a deer ducking almost every time.
Yes.
You know, don't aim
Yes.
like at its belly low, but aim to where it's in the vitals, you know, heart. And sometimes, man, they're so close they don't have time to react. You know, I mean, it's like that deer in Oklahoma. That dude didn't have time to react to that shot. Had no time. That arrow was through that deer before he even knew what was going on. So,
yeah,
you know,
and you're
that's
talking
just,
like that was like 15 yards or
yeah,
in.
it was close.
I mean, it was there.
It was close. So, you know, I mean,
So, yeah, definitely don't aim high like a doofus. Like I said, I misspoke. Sorry about that.
No, don't aim high and aim low. And like John said before, aim small, miss small. So with that, I want to talk about real quick the getting your bow ready for season, because that's another crucial point here that we need to talk about. So you've mentioned it before. Go now to your bow shop and get your bow tuned, paper tuned, all that stuff. So what is a paper tune? A paper tune is making sure that your arrow is coming out of the bow and hitting the target correctly. It's not doing anything wonky
Straight.
like a left tear, a right tear, a up tear, down tear. You want it to just punch a little hole right in the center, and that is all. You don't want to have a rip to the left or the right or up or down. That means you need to go back to the drawing board and get that rascal figured out. So you know, and sometimes it can be about how you're gripping the bow too. You know, if you torque it a little bit or anything like that, then sometimes that can be what causes it to be a little bit different. But take it in, get it looked at, make sure you're tuned, your cams are on time, everything is flawless, so that way you have nothing to worry about when you actually get out in the stand and hunt. So when you get out in the stand, you're going to have awesome broadheads, awesome arrows, and a bow that is tuned up, ready to rip. And that's the ultimate key to success as far as the equipment side of it.
Well, and I'll tell you this also, you know, whenever you're picking a broadhead, first things first, whatever bow shop you go to, they're going to have an opinion, and they're all going to be different. Everybody that works at that shop's going to say something different, you know. But for me, I've also found that Schwacker flies pretty darn true to my field tips. The other thing is that it comes with a practice broadhead. So, like one that doesn't expand. So you could also shoot that to get the truest point. But I really haven't had a problem going out there, sighting in with the field tips, and then switching to the broadheads. Hasn't been much of an issue for me at all, really. I don't know about other brands because I haven't really shot them in the field. But to me, that's another big thing is because I know there's broadheads that don't fly true, you know, that say they do. So you really need to look into that too whenever you're sighting in bows and things, you know. I mean, otherwise, I mean, what's the point? You know, you're just kind of doing all this work if it's just going to fly all the way different.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And then practice, 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 practice. I can't stress that enough. You need to get out, shoot your bow all the time, and get those muscles in shape, ready for having to hold the draw a little bit longer or making a smooth draw while you're in the stand. There's a hundred different scenarios that go into a successful shot, and if you practice and you're ready, then you're essentially knocking out a bunch of the variables. You're getting rid of them, you know, and you're not necessarily worried as much about your reflexes, your muscle stamina, and all that stuff. You just know that your equipment's good, you're ready to roll. Now, you know, a big buck walks in, you're going to be shaking like a leaf in a tree. Well, I do anyway. You know how I get. I get
Oh
blown
yeah.
sideways. I get sideways every time. So even with a doe, man, I get sideways. So, yeah. But nonetheless, if you have your equipment good and you're physically in shape and ready for that hunt, you're reducing a lot of the variables.
Oh yeah. A lot of bow hunting is so much mental more than anything. I mean, obviously you need to go out and sight on your bow and put in the reps, but that's the stuff that's going to make your mental greater. Because if you go out there and you just think like, dude, I don't know what's going to happen, man. I haven't shot this thing enough. I don't know what's happening. Can I really do this? If you're already questioning your shot, it's going to be bad. You've already lost.
Over.
I mean, you've got to go there with the confidence, and maybe the confidence is 40 yards and in, 30 yards and in, whatever it is, you know. And if that deer walks out at 55 yards and you're just like, dude, I don't think I can do it, then don't do it. It's okay. But if you know, like, man, from 75 and in, then okay, great, good for you.
Yeah.
But it's such a big part of bow hunting is confidence, because if you don't have it, you've lost before you even left the house.
Yep, that's exactly right. So the next thing that I want to share with people is our favorite brands of broadhead. So obviously, it's the G5 Mega Meat and the Slacker. Okay, so
Yep.
there's those would be our go-tos for
Yeah.
the mechanical. That, in my opinion, those are the two best in the market. And there's a bunch of them out there, that are really good, that work great. But those two are the ones that we've had the most success on over the past several years. So, that's just kind of
and
what
I'm
we
sure.
gravitate towards.
Yes, and I'm sure there's a bunch of others that are awesome that I've never shot. I'm sure there are. I'm kind of the guy that, like, if I find something I like, I stick with it. I'm the same way. Like, if I go to a Mexican restaurant, I know what I'm going to get. It's the same thing with broadheads. It's like, I listen. I'm just going to shoot this because I know I like it and I know it works, and I just like it. I will say this on my crossbow now, for whatever reason, I shoot fixed blade. And I think it's because after this deer's experience, and I think also just because I've already had them and I just didn't buy new ones and whatever. So on my crossbow, I just shoot fixed. And if I'm shooting fixed, I really like Muzzy. Why? I don't know. They've been around forever. I think I just use them because my dad used them growing up, kind of thing, because they're just affordable. And so I will say that if I'm shooting a fixed, I do like Muzzy. Again, I'm sure there's 100 others that work phenomenal. I'm just talking, what I use. So crossbow, I'm using fixed. I'm using my Muzzy. Any other time, I'm using mechanical on the Schwacker 2-inch 100 grain. Just always there. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's right. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I agree with you 100% on that one.
So I do have one more thing I want to bring up here, Ben, before we totally log off of this. And I just want to kind of get your thoughts, because it's not a new product by any means, but it's kind of getting more and more popular every single year. And I think it's because of people having this discussion, mechanical versus fixed. There is a such thing as a hybrid broadhead, that has a little bit of both. So, like, I know Grim Reaper has one. I think it's called Severe or Sever or something. SEVR has one. Kind of these hybrid. I think NAP may have one. I'm sure there's many others that do. But basically, it's like the tip of it, like kind of like the front half of the broadhead is fixed, and then the back half kind of shoots out and expands. I've not used it, but I could kind of see where that could come in handy, because it's kind of best of both worlds in a sense, right? It starts out and it can punch through the bone, and then it still expands and gets the big hole. I guess that's the kind of thought behind it. Have you used them? Has anyone in a camp that you've been in used them? do you know anyone talking about them? I mean, have you seen any results?
Man, I honestly have not. I have never personally
I
used
haven't
one,
either.
but you know, now you've got my wheels turning in my head, and might have to give one of those a try this year just to see what we think about them.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it. I'm also not mad if anyone wants to send me any.
Yeah, same here.
But anyway,
Hey, we'll try them out. We'll use them, but you know, that sounds like a great concept and sounds like a really good product. So we just need to give one a try and see what happens.
well, maybe we just get wild and crazy and do us a little comparison video. How about that?
I like that too. We can sure enough do that. I like it a lot.
Well, you never know. You just never know what old me and Ben Colt's gonna get into.
No, you don't. You don't ever know what we're gonna get into. But we got velvet season right around the corner. We're around a month out, so hey, we're gonna get in the stand here soon, and hopefully we'll bring home the bacon. Hopefully, let's just pray this weather goes correctly and stays
Yeah.
nice
Heck,
and doesn't decide to storm the whole velvet hunt like it did last year.
that would be great. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it kind of seems like it's either storming or it's 100 million degrees and then we go sit in a crock pot outside. It's real great.
Yeah, or it's drops off and cool the week before, and then that week the velvet comes in, it's 110 degrees. So it's like, oh,
Yeah, exactly.
fantastic. That's great. That's what we're looking for here, guys. Shoot, yeah. But anyway, with that, brother, if you don't have anything else, I have said what I need to say about broadheads.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. Bottom line is find what you like, practice, aim small, miss small, and make sure you don't miss.
Yeah, make sure you don't miss. And if you want to support this podcast, you can head over to our website, rootedtelevision.com, pick up some swag, hats, shirts, hoodies, all kind of gear, sweatpants. Yeah, need you some of those. And there's a link in our description to directly support this podcast. As always, we appreciate you guys, and the redneck is out.
See y'all.
Boom, shakalaka. For all things Rooted Podcast and Rooted Television, and I mean hats, shirts, hoodies, and other merch, check out our friends at CH Lone Star Pro and the link that is in our description.